Custom Rolex Daytonas are, in fact, just fake Rolexes. However, fake or not, these are some of the most amazing Rolex Daytonas currently available on the market. With me today, I have Rolex expert Peter Piccolino to talk about how these are made, what they're costing, and what the quality of these are like. Peter, how's it going?
It's going great, Avi. How are you?
Can't complain. I wanted to talk about these. I know me and you recently saw a couple of posts from a dealer that was selling these customized Rolex Daytonas, and the first thought, that I had was like, wow, these are amazing.
Crazy, right?
Yep. They're beautiful. Ian, if you could pull up the picture of, like there's three of them. We have a carbon one, we have a sapphire one, and we have a Rolex Daytona rainbow.
Correct.
All three of these are, in fact, aftermarket.
Yep.
Now, we are assuming that they have original movements.
You would be told that they have original movements. Correct.
But nothing else is real.
Correct.
Not the hands, not the markers, dials, nothing.
Not the.
So if the movement wasn't changed, these would just be knockoffs.
Correct. Yeah. If they had any other movement other than original Rolex movement, it would just be a flat out fake.
And what I learned from you, which I thought was really interesting, was that not only are these, aftermarket, like I assumed that aftermarket meant that a respectable, manufacturer of such things, such as Artisans de Geneve, actually created these. But you informed me and kind of taught me that, no, bro, these are just like fakes, like China, like.
Yeah, so there's a company actually, like the carbon ones specifically, a company called DIW. Okay. They actually make these in super low quantities, and it's the same exact, process, right? Where they just put a real movement in it, but it's their aftermarket carbon fiber case, style, hands, bezel, whatever. But yeah, it's pretty wild. It's a fake of a fake, essentially.
So, I feel like, okay, if there's a company, there's a name, DIW, there's Titan, I think, there's Black something. Blacken. Then there was the old one, or not the old one, like one of the original ones. Bamford, yeah. Bamford customized stuff. This is just Chinese manufacturers making fakes of those fakes.
Correct.
So there is actually no brand. There is nothing other than like a WhatsApp number, or like an eBay listing. Yeah. Or like some weird fucking website out there that you have to send them like Cash App or like Western Union.
It's crazy.
So, okay, let's just take into consideration that these are fakes of fakes. Do we think that the quality of these is any worse than the original quality? Let's say DIW. Do you think DIW has like higher grade materials? Or?
I mean, that's super tough to say only because I've never actually seen a DIW in person. Once again, super low quantities that they're actually produced in. I would assume it's going to be less quality, tolerances. Because at the end of the day, it's, DIW comes out, they make their own mold, obviously to press the carbon
so you think they make all their own stuff?
I would assume that DIW...
Because if I buy this stuff from China and I put a brand on it, AVI, suddenly I have my own brand, we're more respectable, right? Yeah,
essentially, yeah. But I just feel like DIW went out of their way because they were like the first people, as far as I know, to release a carbon fiber case for a Daytona. So maybe there's someone in China with the molds and they were just like, yeah, we can do this on our own too.
Because you know how everybody goes to Alibaba, they'll buy a product, they'll private label it, they'll throw their brand on it. What's to say that DIW is not doing the same thing with these?
It's very possible. But once again, I think that they were like the first people to come out and do it. So maybe it is their own thing. At this point, China has everything. They've made everything.
So China is actually selling them with the DIW markings.
Yeah, with the DIW hands, the dial, and the engravings on the back.
Interesting.
So that's actually, you know what? So you would think that they would change the engravings. However, they actually are one for one in terms of engraving literature.
Okay.
So that's why, I'm kind of thinking maybe it is the same case that DIW is using now. I didn't even put two and two together.
They would charge a significant premium just because now it's like branded. Now we are, artisans. Like we are doing this, for the sake of horology and because we love it and all, instead of just like, hey, this is Cindy in factory A in China, and she's just selling this stuff. Let's get into, the actual costs. what is a case like this? Let's take the carbon one, for example. Then we'll go over to the rainbow, because the rainbow does, obviously, it's, I'm assuming it's stainless steel. They're not creating.
Yeah,
they're not creating white gold.
That one specifically was steel, but yeah.
So let's take the carbon, for example. What is something like this going for on the market?
So the way you construct something like this, you actually buy a regular Daytona, right? It could be a steel Daytona. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to go with anything other than steel.
And
right?
you're going to go with an older model, I assume.
Yeah. Anything
like whatever
with the
garbage.
4130 in it, right? So anything from the year 2000 plus.
Okay.
Right? So you can get them pretty cheap. Let's just assume you bought one, it's beat up. You paid 17 grand for it, right? No,
I'm going to look on eBay right now for Rolex Daytona for parts. Huh?
Nah, they have nothing on there.
Nothing for parts? Okay. How about movement? Can I just
You could type in 4130 or 4130.
4130.
You're probably going to see a bunch of fakes. The Zeniths have 4030s, but you'll probably see something called a Dao Dong.
Okay, so there's a 4130 for 12,500.
Correct. So exactly my point, right? So if you take a movement out of a Daytona, you physically can't get them. 4130 parts are super, super hard to get.
Okay.
I know you guys showed me just get a bunch of 3235 parts, brand new in blister. That was even a hassle. Try and get Daytona parts, it's horrible. You can't really do it. So when you have that movement loose on its own, it's always going to bring a premium. I've seen them sell 10,000. I've actually sold Daytona movements because I've broken a watch down before. Just, I don't know what the hell I did for it, but like I just broke the watch down and sold off the parts, right?
Okay.
That movement, 10, 12 grand, that's almost the brunt of it, right? So now you have an additional 5, 6 grand in just the case, the bezel, the bracelet, crystal. Crystals alone are like $275 for a genuine Daytona crystal.
Holy shit.
So if you don't sell that all as one lot, you sell it piece by piece.
I would sell it link at a time.
That's exactly it, right? The pushers, I've paid $1,000 for just one pusher on a Daytona, on a steel Daytona.
So wait, so let's assume you bought an entire one, not just the movement, but you bought a whole one for 15,000.
Okay.
Is that
cheap? That's very cheap.
Okay,
let's say 17 grand. 17 grand is a fair number.
So we'll take 17,000. You pulled out the movement. How much is the carbon case costing you market
fake
price?
One, so from last, I don't know, like I guess on like Chinese websites and whatever, and a little bit of Reddit research, they're running like $800, $850 delivered to the U.S.
Okay, so 17,000 plus. Let's just cap it at $1,000.
Yeah,
you know, so you're at 18,000 already.
Correct.
And now you have two of them. You have you have a Rolex Daytona, and you have a case of a modified, like an aftermarket Rolex Daytona. You pull out the movement, you throw it in that one.
And that's
How much are you selling it for?
That specific watch, I saw one sell for, what was it, 18.8?
No, 19.9.
19.9. All right, and this is, if he ever sees this video, no disrespect to him, I'm not going to name drop. He's one of the goats in the industry.
Oh,
genuinely is, right? 19.9 is just absurd, right? Because then off rip, you're already 2K profit over, right?
Yes.
You're only in it for, okay, let's say you're in it for 18.
18, you just made 1,900
bucks,
yes.
right? Now on top of that, you have an entire case, which is impossible to get. As far as I know, I don't think Rolex will actually issue a service Daytona case.
Okay.
Unless fully warranted, right? But let's just say it's going to cost you $2 grand, 2,500 from Rolex. So now you have a case. You have a bracelet that you can't get, you can't order. As I think it was like as of April 30th or whatever, they're no longer selling you bracelets loosely. Rolex Service Center. So now you have a full bracelet. Bracelet's another $3 grand. So right now we're sitting at like, let's say $6 grand for just the case and bracelet. Now you have a dial. Dials alone, 116520 dials, white dials, $1,000, $1,500. If it's an APH dial, $2,000. If it's a black dial, $900, $1,000. So now the money starts adding up. So you're really walking away with, I mean, if I had to give a ballpark figure, maybe $8,000 to $9,000 profit if done properly.
And you have this watch on your wrist that you love.
Correct.
Let's assume it's for you.
Correct.
Let's assume you're not doing this as a business. You're doing it for yourself.
Correct. So now, okay, so let's go a step further, right? So now you're in the one that's on your wrist. It's aftermarket. You're in it for $9 grand, right? So now you turn around, you sell that for, let's say, $18,000. That's a 50% markup, and you just made $8,000, like that.
That is amazing. But so money aside, like this thing, okay, so now we know how much it costs us to build one. We know how much money we can make if we did one and sold one. The watch itself is fucking beautiful. Like I told you, I want one.
I said the same exact thing. The one that we both looked at, the one that we both actually enjoy. I think it's
the
insane.
Velcro band.
Insane.
Like it's awesome. So let's hope that you actually get this in and build one out, and I'm gonna buy it from you.
Goes good with the gray market. Oh, the Essentials hoodie. I thought you were wearing a gray market.
Oh no! I have the gray market
there you go.
on my chair. I'm gonna put that on later. Yeah, it goes good with the whole gray market theme. It's all fucking shades of gray and shit. But in fact, you are wearing a fake watch. So let's assume, instead of doing this whole thing of like buying a real movement, what if you just kept it with a fake movement? Because you could buy this from China with a fake 4130 movement.
Yeah, absolutely. You can.
And then you're just wearing a fake watch.
Yes. So even when you put the genuine movement in it, it doesn't really do it. Like you might go up 10% and be like, yeah, it's but 90%
to you,
fake.
You know, okay, I have a fake. Let's see. There's a difference between fake and aftermarket to me in my head.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I would call it, I am wearing an aftermarket Rolex with an authentic movement.
Correct. And it's no different from Patek's. It's no different from RMs, right? Sapphire cases. There's tons of people walking around with Sapphire
no difference
RMs.
From Artisans de Geneve. Like, what's it? Okay, they manufacture their own shit.
Yeah.
But it's fake.
So here's the thing with Artisans de Geneve. I think it's two different animals, right? I wouldn't even, as far as this is just my personal preference, I wouldn't put them in a fake category for a specific reason, right? Because there's so much ingenuity behind it, and they're starting with genuine parts. Yeah. Granted, the parts that they are replicating or making is aftermarket, like the rotors.
Yeah.
Other movement parts, maybe like dials and stuff, but I wouldn't call them fake. I think it's just, man. It's like customizing a car to me.
I mean, from the research I did on them, most of their work is really just taking an authentic watch and customizing that one, customizing the existing parts.
Correct.
So they'll shave down the lugs to make it look more like a vintage, Daytona, for example. They'll actually like cut out the dial to make it into a skeleton dial. They're not putting in an aftermarket dial because that would be putting in a fake Chinese-made part. They are adding a rotor that they, custom milled in like an 18 karat gold. Like, it is, I mean, it's beautiful work what they do.
It's beautiful, but then again, I would also classify it as aftermarket. Yeah. It's not fake, but it is aftermarket.
I prefer aftermarket.
I prefer aftermarket better, as well, right? Yeah.
But somebody at some point will come up to you and be like, oh, so that's a fake one.
That's fake. 100%. You see something like that, you would say
you take Artisans de Geneve, for example. Yeah, this is a $100,000 fake. Pretty much.
$100,000 aftermarket worked on watch.
I would call it a customized one of one.
But that's the thing. Some of them aren't even
they're not one of one. Yeah, they make
as long as you have $100,000, you could like go to them, supply the watch, and that's it.
You know what's surprising? I am surprised that they have not been,
sued.
Yeah.
I think Rolex is in cahoots with them, and they actually allow them to do this thing. It's because like how Artisans goes about it, they're keeping horological,
integrity.
Okay. Yeah, they're 100% doing that. They're not really, this is very argumentative that they're not functioning functionality of the watch. You cut a bridge or a balance bridge, like you're doing something to the structural rigidity of the movement, right? But I think it's because they're keeping horological, like people, like the watchmaking industry, they're really trying to revive that, make it cooler to the younger generation. They do tons with young kids. So I think Rolex is like okay with them. They should have been sued. Think of it this way. They should have been sued.
Bamford got sued.
Bamford did get sued.
Right.
So what makes Bamford any different than Artisans? Bamford did create aftermarket parts.
Yes.
Whereas Artisans mostly modifies.
Correct. And I think that's probably where they're drawing the line, because you're not selling something with, how you say, malicious intent, right? You're not selling something with a fake bezel that you created. It's custom, but it's still fake and replicates what they already produce.
I'm wondering whether Rolex, deep down in their headquarters, the top minds there.
Building a case?
Huh? No, not building a case. No, whether they like take inspiration or like creative direction maybe from some of the things that Artisans is doing.
That's a good point, because the new, what the hell is the new movement number? 4131, the new Platinum Daytona with the exhibition case back.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, if I was Artisans, I would probably sue them. Like,
that would be interesting.
He kind of stole our idea.
So again, I'm a huge fan of Artisans.
Yeah.
I would buy one, 100%. And I actually am thinking of it, and I'm trying to figure out which one I want. I pulled up some of my favorites, and I wanted to go through them. One of the things that I remember I told you about, that I wanted an Artisans that was, the vintage looking one, the Paul Newman style. One of the ones that they came out with that's amazing, like it's just beautiful, was the Honey Green Project. This is a green Paul Newman in a way.
Yeah.
So they started out with 116508. They actually took the yellow gold John Mayer Daytona and modified it.
Crazy, right?
It is crazy, right? Because they could have just taken anything else.
But it kind of makes sense to them because that green dial alone, it's worth 10, 15 grand.
Yeah. Their whole thing was like, okay, we're going to take this dial and we want to change the green. They wanted to go more with like a deeper,
it's like a forest type of
darker,
green, right?
They call it like English green or
English racing green.
Yeah.
English racing green.
They wanted to go, deeper with that. It has a Panda style layout with a Bakelite bezel. It's a beautiful looking watch. Ian probably pulled it up on the screen. Crown guards were removed.
Completely chopped.
And they wanted to replicate the proportions of a vintage Daytona, which they did here. I mean, this thing is just gorgeous. The modern chronograph pushers were replaced by Miller-Reeg, am I pronouncing that right? Miller-Reeg style pushers with straight-edged grooves. This is like, again, an homage to like the vintage Daytona. And they added the gold rotor to the 4130, movement. Obviously,
that was all the
presentation case back. So you can actually see this gold rotor. It's beautiful. This thing cost them $24,000 to, like, the cost of the actual labor and I guess materials was $24,000 on top of the watch, which right now is probably what, about $80,000.
If they went for an actual John Mayer,
they did, yeah.
And they could also buy these watches naked because they issue their own paperwork. Yeah. So yeah, let's just say $80,000. Okay. You paid for that. So right now you're in it for $104,000.
Now the question is on resale value.
Oh yeah.
What do we think?
See, that's a tough one because I haven't seen one of those come to market, right? I feel like the people that are buying these ones specifically, they love watches. They are real deal watch enthusiasts.
100%.
And this is a piece that they're like, you know what? 20 of my friends have a John Mayer Daytona, but how many of them actually have this?
How many did they make of these?
I think it's made to order.
So they originally made one because one guy contacted them and said, here is what I want.
Okay.
So the next one I wanted to talk about was the Shades of Blue project. This is also a customer that said, here are, I want you to create like a blue for me that is so unique and is so like cool that is not something you would typically see. So they create this for a customer, and obviously they ask them, are you okay if we create this for others? If they say no, then you own that. That is your design. Nobody else can have it. If it's okay, cool. Like if the guy gives approval, then they could resell them. I'm sure they make a limited quantity, maybe 25.
Yeah.
We recently had the Spike Lee one, the Brooklyn. And what do we sell that for? Do you know?
I want to say it was like 115.
Something like that, right? I mean,
yeah.
You assume they took the Spike Lee one is a Daytona steel, which means the cost of the watch is lower.
The weirdest thing is they actually went with a 116-500, right? So it started life as either a Panda or just a black on black ceramic. They could have went with the slightly older.
I guess this is what gives them like the whole, the prestige of it. Like they're actually taking a legitimately modern, solid watch and modifying it. Okay, so let's assume we sold it for $115. If you take a stainless steel Daytona, let's assume another $30,000 worth of labor and parts. We're what, 60,000?
Maybe like 55.
55,
60 for safekeeping. Yeah, sure.
So I'm assuming that the person that originally bought this did not lose money on it when they resold.
I think that they paid $124.
Really?
For it. If I'm not mistaken, I think the receipt said like $124.
How is that?
I don't know if it's because it's a limited edition piece or something like that.
Because if you think about it, like, again, the cost of the materials is less because of the watch.
Correct.
The cost of the labor, I mean, again, how much could that be? If the Honey Green is $24,000 in labor and parts.
But this one, the Spike Lee is fully skeletonized.
Okay.
The entire movement is skeletonized.
So more milling work, more
finishing, like the hand finishing. The hand finishing alone is done with a very fine piece of pegwood and literally polished. Like you have to sit there and like go back and forth, make sure all the beveling is nice. I would assume more labor.
Okay.
But
So let's max it out at 50 grand.
Okay, you're in it for 80.
You know, if the customer bought it for 120 something.
No, I'm saying their cost. Artisans, like 50 for labor, 30 for the watch.
Yeah.
80.
So 80. So you think they sold it to the end user for 120? Actually, let me see.
See if you can pull up the retail. I could have almost sworn that I remember seeing on the receipt.
Artisans.
24.
I know we sold it over 100. Like, I know we sold it to
over
an
100,
end user.
yes, 100%.
Which means, obviously we got it for a little bit less.
Yes.
Nothing about how much they actually charged. Yeah, we don't have any information on how much what the retail price of this thing is. Which, again, there's no such thing really as retail.
Unless you can get it. Like retail only exists if you can get it at that. You know?
Okay. For shits and giggles, let's assume that the end user paid 120 and sold it to us for 100.
Yep.
You just wore this watch for a certain number of years, let's say, or however long you wanted to, and it only cost you 20 grand.
Personally, I think I would freak out if I lost 30 grand.
That's what I'm saying,
on that specific watch, right?
That dude took a bath.
Yeah, because you know what? You could have just bought 4 116-500s, never wore them, and made money.
You're not doing this for a business. You're doing this for yourself. You wanted this watch.
Yeah, no. I get that.
Like, I want to buy one for myself, and I don't care. Yes, I might lose money 5 years down the line, but I just got to wear this watch for $5,000 a year.
Yeah, if you rented it for 20 grand, whatever. Yeah. No. I could agree with that. But there's also the other ones that they've made in the past, like the oh my God, I don't know if it's Artisans that does it. Maybe there's another project.
So we have the Shades of Blue Challenge. We have the Montoya Platinum Challenge.
Oh, that's crazy.
Arola Project. This is the one with the baguettes. Let's get into the rest, because the rest are awesome. So the Shades of Blue was, again, it was requested by an individual. Said, I want you to make me this. They started with 116-500. They went with a matte blue dial, recessed sky blue snailed registered with electric blur glimmers.
Snail.
A lot of literature.
I don't know what snailed registers are, but
I think it's a finish.
I'm sure.
It's a finishing.
It's like one of those words that makes this watch sound like a $100,000 watch.
Yeah. You know, like when a snail, like the liquid it leaves behind or some shit. Like,
you know what? Let me see if
I let the curse on you.
Let me see if I could see it.
Who gives a shit?
Okay, so the sub dials have the
like
rings
a weavy
around.
pattern.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bakelite bezel, obviously. Mm-hmm. So the sub dials are an icy cool sky blue with dark blue pointers, rhodium plated indice. Instead of a bracelet, it's on a soft alligator strap that's color matched to the dial. Now, again, they source the materials for the bracelets.
Crazy.
Like, they'll look everywhere. They'll figure out any sort of, like any possible material to do this in. Altered pushers. So they change them up to make it, look good with smooth case sides. So I think, is all of it satin?
I think all of them are.
I think the thing is that satin.
Brushed.
Yeah, so the whole thing is brushed except for the sides where the pushers are. 4130 movement, handmade balance bridge. Cost to do this was about approximately $30,000 in addition to the cost of the watch. So again, you're looking at about $55,000, $60,000, let's say.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's not what they charged.
They probably charge more. I'm sure that they have a markup on these things, but realistically, that's kind of reasonable when you think about it. Who the hell else could do this? Nobody. Going back to our original point when we looked up a 4130 movement, that's 10 grand, right?
Yeah.
You mess up 5 bridges on a 4130, where the hell are you getting them? You're already losing thousands of dollars. You know how much risk it is?
I'm assuming that they have the
They have an RSC account, as far as I know.
I don't know what that means.
Rolex Service Center account. So you could order parts.
Okay, but I'm assuming that they have the ability to manufacture these on their own.
Yes, they do.
That's big.
You scan it in.
They're in cahoots.
Yeah. I remember that guy I showed you that was making the dials?
Yeah.
He scans it in to his computer, and then his fiber laser, actually he draws the plots out.
Cuts it out, huh?
And then it just cuts it right out. And then all he does is the finish work.
That is sick. So this one is one of my favorites. It's the 6263 albino tribute. Yes, 6263 albino tribute. So the reason it's albino is because the dial is it's kind of like a silvery to match the rest of the watch. The entire thing is very monochromatic. Again, they started with a 116-500 LN, you know, which is crazy. Like, again, they're paying a premium to use this watch. The dial was reworked to do like a sunray. Like, is that what it's called?
It's called like a sunburst finish.
Sunburst, yes.
So
they did like a silver sunburst finish on there. Bakelite bezel. The counters feature 3 distinctly shaped hands. Each hand on the subdials is different. So they have a tie at the 3 o'clock, a straight stick at 6 o'clock, and a pointed stick at 9 o'clock, all flame blued.
A tie?
Yeah. Like,
how do you mean a tie?
Like,
oh, like an arrow?
Yeah. Well, imagine a tie that goes like this.
I got you.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Why have I not? I feel like I have not seen this. I feel like that's a horrible design choice.
Pull it up. I sent it over to you. You can take a look at this thing.
It's so subtle.
It is,
Looking at this picture, it's so subtle.
So, and they're flame blued, which gives it this like rich blue color. Again, traditional pushers were replaced. Crown guards were removed. Case and bracelet have been satin brushed. Only the case sides are still high polish.
Weird.
The hands?
Yeah.
It's just like it's a little thing that they did to make us, I guess, stand out. Now, I'm assuming that the 6263, the original one, did not have that.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
So this is...
They cut the wrong size hands.
Yeah. This is they made their own, version of this.
I do think that they make their own hands. I don't think they're taking existing hands and just painting them.
The weird thing about this one is that they converted the 41 movement into a manual winding one because the owner
remove the auto works.
Yeah, the owner wanted that, giving it a 72-hour power reserve.
That's cool.
There is no known price for this work, so this has not been released, like how much this costs to create. Again, I'm assuming every one of their watches is above 6 figures, or it's in 6 figures.
Has
above
to be,
100,000.
yeah. And it's got to be. Once again, it's made to order, right? I'm sure you could present them an idea, but they're probably going to come back to you with a number, and it's either yes or no.
That's cool though, to have like the ability to be like, here's what I want. I want.
Here's what I want. Yeah.
These are the colors I
This
want.
is it.
Yeah. That's cool. Obviously, one of their more known ones is the Montoya Platinum. So they have the Montoya Platinum. They also have the Montoya Gold. This is where they skeletonize the entire dial and movement, like the case back. Like everything is just like super exhibition. A very, very good-looking watch. Carbon bezel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it has the carbon bezel. The colors of the subdials they did like after the Colombian flag. So they have red, yellow, and green.
The Montoya
green or
colors.
Blue? It might be blue. I don't know. Do I have it here?
Blue, red, and yellow.
Blue, red, and
yellow.
And yellow. Sorry.
Okay.
This was originally created for Pablo Montoya himself.
Montoya.
Wild.
Like he requested this. So the bezel was exchanged for a custom-made bezel with tachmeter with a tachmeter that has been machined from forged carbon block.
So tough to do.
Yes, skeletonized dial, beveled and polished by hand. Movement has been skeletonized. The main plate, bridges, and even the mainspring drum has been opened. Many of the parts have been coated, but not before they have been brushed, beveled, and polished by hands. 3 colored counters, which like the hands, are individual painted by hand. Colors of Juan Pablo. I called him Pablo Montoya. It's Juan Pablo Montoya.
Juan Pablo Montoya.
His country is Colombia, not Cuba. Sorry. I'm fucking everything
You
up.
said Montoya.
I said Pablo Montoya, like Pablo Escobar. Because Colombia was in my head. I think I said Cuba. Around the sapphire crystal, the case back has been engraved with Artisans de Geneve and Juan Pablo Montoya, and the individual number of this specific, watch in the limited release. No known cost for creating this. Absolutely beautiful.
High 6 figures.
And again,
$20.
just to fucking fuck with you, they started with a platinum fucking Daytona, the 115006.
Yeah,
man.
116506.
When this first came out, when it just started surfacing everywhere, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I remember people going, "Oh my god, they're making fake Daytonas." People didn't realize that it was Artisans de Geneve doing this. I know once platinum came into the mix, Like, that's just like such a...
It's crazy, right?
I don't want to curse, but yeah, it's like such a smack to your face.
Yeah.
Like, you have a platinum Daytona, that's great. Like, look at mine. Like, I had this done to mine.
Yeah, I paid an extra $50,000 for mine.
Yeah, like, you nuts. Like, that's crazy. Great looking piece, though.
It is. So again, the fact that they started with, you know, an expensive watch already is amazing. They did the same thing with the gold version. They started with the yellow gold. Another one that I saw during my research that I fell in love with was the Arola project. Now, if you take a look at the picture of this thing, this has blue sapphires on the bezel. It has a... It's weird because it's like, is it a skeletonized or is it just like an exhibition dial? Like it's a see-through blue dial.
This one specifically, it's exactly what they do to like basically all the other Daytonas, right? It's skeletonized, but every single part in there has been blued.
Oh, so it's not just like a see-through dial.
I don't think it's the you know what? No, I'm sorry. I think it might be the sapphire because now I'm remembering they made different color crystals.
No, right. The dial has now been made translucent and tinted blue to match a strap and bezel.
Yeah. So what it actually is the sapphire up top is the original clear sapphire, and then the actual dial plate, like those 3 floating rings, they're set onto a blued piece of like acrylic or sapphire. It's wild.
So it blew itself.
It basically blues itself, yeah, by perception.
Yeah, it blew itself.
Like
the movement was skeletonized, sandblasted, and beveled by hand. Custom rotor with an X motif has been added. It's visible through the sapphire crystal. Oyster Flex rubber strap has been given a makeover with a semi-translucent blue showing off the design of the metal blade inside. So you can actually see through the bracelet. Awesome. Case back now has a sapphire inset pane. Skeletonized Rolex caliber of 4130 can be seen. Unknown cost. The sapphires themselves are amazing. This entire blue, you know, theme is just amazing. They really, really knocked it out of the park with this one.
This was done on a steel watch, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They might have actually started with an Oyster. I'll tell you. No, they started with a 116-500.
Yeah. It was definitely just the regular one.
I was going to say, what if they started with an Oyster Flex? But
knowing them at this point, like, what does it matter? They probably did at one point.
Yes. So the last one that I found in my research that I loved, it's really, really unique, is one that they made custom for Lance Armstrong. It's called the Armstrong. It's modeled on a vintage Daytona reference 6239 pulsations.
Which one is this?
In this case, they actually took out parts. They reworked the entire movement.
Oh, this one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. They basically got rid of the...
I don't know what that is, but...
I think that's like... Oh, my God.
Hold on. Let me see if I have it in here. So they started with a 116-520 in stainless steel.
Okay.
Ceramic bezel has been replaced with one of a new design. Open work dial, yellow accents.
Does it say, not to interrupt you, but does it say 116-520 is what they started with?
Yeah.
So it actually wouldn't have came with the carbon ceramic bezel. It would have been steel.
Yeah, so they got rid of the steel and they put on like...
They put on the carbon? I thought you were saying
it is carbon.
I think they're saying that.
No, it's not carbon. Which is funny, actually. In this case, they could have just kept the original.
Yeah, the outer...
This is the ceramic.
The case is all
Yeah, well,
steel.
the bezel is just custom made by them. All right, yeah, that makes sense then.
Specially designed yellow hands, a second hand with a thunder shape, evoking the yellow color of Lance Armstrong's Live Strong foundation. The hour counter at 9 o'clock is a standard Daytona has been removed. The hour counter.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Not merely in a cosmetic sense, so they didn't just get rid of it, but mechanically, so that
cut it off the main plate.
not only is the register on the dial eliminated, but also all the mechanics in the movement relating to the 12-hour register. The striking open working is further enhanced by the removal of the automatic winding mechanism, which allows all the chronograph mechanics to be visible. The pushers and crown are now black coated and accented in yellow. And the case back was reworked to incorporate a sapphire window and relief lettering on the rim. So this was modeled after pulsations because Lance actually wanted something that would time his heart rate during, like, while he's like riding. And I guess the original pulsations allowed you to do that.
Yeah.
The cost of creating this thing was $45,000 on top of the watch.
That's not crazy.
Not horrible.
Actually, because the amount of work that goes into it. And I mean, believe it or not, so these pushers that are on the watch now, I'm pretty sure that these are the original ones because I've seen them do a video where they actually put it on the milling machine, cut out that groove. But like, look at the detail. They wrote the word stop and reset inside of it. Like,
it's sick, right?
And the yellow.
No one did that by hand. What machine is doing that as well?
That's cool.
I can't even think of anything.
I mean, this thing is amazing, and the fact that they actually took out, you know, an entire subdial and the movement for it.
Crazy, right?
You know, they left this like gap that's open now, and now is like see-through.
Skin. Yeah, straight through.
Fucking awesome. Like, really, really cool looking watch. If you had one of these on, this would stand out in a room full of Daytonas.
Oh, 1,000%, just by the hand. You know what's funny? If you actually look at the second hand, I think they just cut it in half and then glued it side by side and then just put paint.
They made it like the Thunderbolt.
You know what I mean? Yeah, but like the cut is so like jagged.
If you take a look at the subdials, the hands on the subdials, the markers on one is a thick arrow, the other one is just like a thin arrow.
So funny.
Dude, amazing. Like, this is quality work. This is no China manufactured, you know.
No, never get this.
But I'll still take that Chinese white carbon one. So hopefully we can actually have a video of you getting it, creating it, and then selling it to me.
Selling it to you?
Yeah.
This is funded by Avi, not sold by me.
I want to have it customized with, like, you know, I want to engrave the back. One of one.
I'm sure that we could. Those kids that do the medical,
that's true.
Titanium stuff, he told me to come by and he'll cut up movement parts if I want.
Oh, shit. That's awesome. Yeah. We could do some crazy shit with that.
I'll be exclusive.
Peter, thank you very much for joining me to talk about this. I know this is kind of like your forte. This is where you like play, and this is the fun part of, like,
absolutely.
You know, I know that we don't actually sell customized Rolexes, but, you know, maybe maybe
we could have them. But
maybe you could, like, just, you know, hook me up. And then, you know, if anybody actually wants this, they could reach out to you, and I'm sure you could facilitate the transaction for one of these.
Absolutely.
Guys, if you like this episode, if you like the channels, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, review the podcast if you're listening to this. I didn't do any sort of promo or any giveaways or anything today. I completely forgot, so I'm sorry. You know, visit graphicrugs.com to buy their rugs and stuff.
Great company. I got it in my office.
I'm sorry, guys. I completely forgot because I was really into this topic. I'm into most of these topics. We'll see you next time. Peter, thank you so much for joining me. Talk to you later.